Hi there and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rutendo and this is Thinking Out Loud with Ru. To those who are stopping by for the first time, welcome to you. You've chosen the right place and I hope you resonate with some of the topics that I'm going to talk about. But just to catch you up, this is a podcast channel about just speaking about things that young adults go through. And I guarantee you that some of the topics that I am speaking about, you would genuinely relate to because it's things that we all experience. But I am speaking about it from a lens of being a psychology student and also a lens of being a young Christian. So please do bear that in mind because I am going to be quoting a lot of psychological tips and a lot of things from the Bible. And if it's content that you relate to, that you would like to see more of, please do consider subscribing, consider leaving a comment. It really helps me. Consider leaving a like. It makes these videos reach more and more people. So, and thank you also to people who keep on tuning in again week after week. So as promised, today I am going to be speaking about just picking up on the topic that I was doing last week, which is coping with trauma. So today I am going to be picking up on that and doing emotional regulation as a topic because I think it's important to just talk about emotional regulation. And I actually wanted to start off by talking about things that we've all watched. So we've all watched, maybe not all, but I'm assuming to some extent most of us have watched movies that have drawn us with the drama of just showing emotion and showing even anger in a way that is relatable. Or we've watched reality shows where people have been a little bit on the petty side and thrown drinks on each other. And even though maybe some of us haven't done it in person, we all have seen it. And sometimes we all have also done some of our little things that are not always the healthiest expression of the emotions that we're experiencing. So even though all these different things that I've mentioned in terms of genre of entertainment, even though they make for good entertainment because it is made for the basis of entertaining people, they make for good entertainment, but terrible reality. Imagine if you had people in your lives who, whenever they're angry, they're just tossing a drink on you, or whenever they're angry, they're punching all the walls around you. It can be quite scary. And even it doesn't just stop there because we've all gotten to that point of evaluating other relationships that I have healthy for me. And if we evaluate and we see that this person might not always have the most healthy way of regulating their emotions, then we're likely to walk away from relationships like that. And it's scary because community is such a big part of being able to cope with our mental health. So we also don't want to be the people who are now lonely because every single person we valued in our lives has literally drawn a line in the sand and be like, I don't want to be around her. And for me, it became a conversation because I really struggled a lot with anger, as I said in the previous episode. I struggled a lot with anger. And for me, my anger was connected to loss. I lost my mother to suicide. And that caused me, for a large part, to feel abandoned. And because I felt abandoned, any emotion, or rather any relationship where I felt that emotion again of abandonment, whether it is because a friend has cancelled plans that we've had for a long time, or if the younger me, a friend has probably left me for another friend, when we had plans that we literally put into play for a while, I felt that abandonment and it caused that anger, and sometimes it would lead to outbursts that were not always healthy because it was also associated for me with narratives of maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I'm not worth loving. Even though, yes, in those moments, those narratives are not always based on truth. It was based on my perception of what was happening then. It was based on how I saw life at that point. Because whenever we have gaps in our minds, it's important to note that if we don't have all the information about what a friend is going through that may have caused them to cancel the plans that we had, we always fill those gaps with what we think happened. And those narratives that we tell, not always healthy and not always based on the truth of what is actually happening. But narratives, like narratives are, still are going to influence behavior, because it's basically how we see life. It's how we perceive things to be happening. And it's just important that we're able to get to that point of actually being able to regulate that, being able to have conversations, so that we don't get to that point where we're being the 12-year-old, 13-year-old Rutendo. She wasn't the healthiest, so I don't recommend her. But anyway, let's get into some of the tips that I came across just doing research on this video. I have used most of them, but I thought it's just important to have a little bit more structured of a video. But the first one that I want to go through is a strategy called TIP. So TIPP. So it basically stands for, the first one is temperature. So when you're finding yourself in a space where your emotions are heated, it's important to start by just regulating your temperature. I use this quite often. And one of the techniques that I use is to regulate my temperature. I just literally sit on the floor. So we have wooden tiles, and they're not as cold as the other tiles, the tiles. I don't know what to call them right now, the stone tiles. They're not as cold as those ones, but they just allow a cold temperature to go into my body, which then drops my temperature. Because it's important to note that when we're feeling anger or anxiety, physiologically, our temperature also goes up, because it's just a way of our bodies preparing us to be able to react appropriately to anything that it deems unsafe or dangerous, right? So our temperatures go up in order to help us for that purpose. So in order for us to regulate our emotions, then we can do something that just lowers our temperature a little bit. For me, it's sitting on the floor. Sometimes it is taking a walk in the morning, because in the morning it is a little bit on the chillier end because the sun is not yet fully out. So sometimes that cold, that chilliness also helps to lower my body temperature, which then regulates my body. But for other people, it could be going for a swim, because we all know pools are cold. Unless you have a heated pool, then maybe it's not a good idea. But it could also be taking a cold shower, or just having some cold water, or splashing your face with cold water. The idea is just to lower your temperature for the reasons that I mentioned before. And then the I represents intense exercise. And it's just a thing to literally release all the adrenaline in your body. One of the things that we experience when we are angry is that our bodies release a lot of adrenaline into our bodies. Because remember, we also very much are about survival. So our bodies are about our survival. So when we are angry, our bodies then release a lot of adrenaline into our bodies in order to give us the strength that we need to fight if we need to fight, to run if we need to fight. Because like I said, when it comes to anxiety and anger, most of the time when we experience them, they're survival mechanisms. So it means that the part of our bodies that are responsible for survival are then activated in order for us to respond appropriately to anything that we deem dangerous. So it's important that in order for us to release this adrenaline in a healthy way, that we are able to go for a jog or if you have a bike in your house or at the gym, you go intensely on the bike for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because it's just a matter of being able to release the adrenaline that is trapped in you. And if you don't have access to that, and maybe you're staying in a flat, then going up and down the stairs for maybe a few minutes, it's just a way of being able to release that adrenaline that is in your body. Or if you don't have stairs, maybe do star jumps in the place that you're standing at for about 2 minutes, 5 minutes, just as a way of releasing the adrenaline that is in your body at that point in time. And then we move over to the first P. So the first P stands for paced breathing. I use this quite often because I have struggled with anxiety a few times. And basically, paced breathing, you can use different techniques like the box breathing technique or the 7-11 breathing technique. So the box breathing technique is you envision yourself drawing a box or a square, and as you do each step of drawing, so for the first one, which is drawing up, you take a deep breath counting to 4, and then you draw across as you hold your breath whilst you count to 4, and then you exhale whilst you're drawing down, and then you exhale, whilst you're counting to 4, and then you hold your breath again whilst you do the line across as you count to 4. So every single step you count to 4 and you do something. So the first one, take a deep breath, hold your breath as you count to 4, exhale as you count to 4, hold your breath again as you count to 4, and then you do that entire cycle for about 8 to 10 times, so that you give your heart rate a chance to be able to also start slowing down. So the point of breathing and managing your breathing is that most of the times when you're anxious, you take very shallow, narrow breaths, right? Which means that your heart is always going to be in that place of just beating very fast. But when you are now managing and controlling your breathing, it forces your heart to get to also a point of slowing down, which regulates your entire body and returns you to a place of rest. The other one that I mentioned is 7-11 breathing technique. Some people call it 5-9 breathing technique. The point is breathe in a little bit, breathe out longer than you breathe in, right? So you breathe in as you count to 7, and then you breathe out as you count to 11. And the whole theory behind this is that when you physically sigh and you exhale for long, your body activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is basically what is activated when you are sleeping or when you're resting. So it relaxes your body when you sigh longer than you breathe in. So I want you to physically see it. So sighing, you can physically see the body just go into a point of relaxing. So the shoulders just go down and everything just starts to relax. And the more you do that, the more you're actually able to activate that parasympathetic nervous system. But basically that's the theory behind it. And then the next one is progressive muscle relaxation. So this is things like when you feel tension in your body, you start to relax that from not even just the places where you feel tension in your body, just from your head all the way down to your toes. You're starting to relax every single piece of your body until you feel fully relaxed. And just staying in a state of that, especially when you have just gone through a lot of heavy emotions at once. It's just a matter of being able to identify what is it that I'm feeling, what do I need right now? And sometimes doing all these different things can make a difference. And the last technique that I just wanted to bring to this platform is, if you don't remember tip, then just think about your 5 senses. So even though some of the things that I'm going to go through are similar to tip, it's just easier to remember soothing your 5 senses. So your 5 senses being your sight, hearing, it's also smell, it's also feeling, it's also, what is it? Touch? Maybe? Okay. So the first one is sight. So try to watch something that makes you feel calm. So sometimes it could be watching a stand-up comedy and just laughing your way through it, right? Because sometimes we need that. And then the second one being smell. So things like aromatherapy, whether it is let me light a candle and just smell something beautiful, something that makes me feel calm. Or if it's not a candle that you're into, because I have a few candles in the house, but some people might not have that. So it could be, let me take a bath, but let me also put some essential oils because they also have relaxing features in them. And the next thing being sound, right? The things that we're hearing and listening to. So people have playlists that they've developed for moments that they're not feeling their best. I have a few. I have one for heartbreak. I have one for I am angry and I just want to let all the emotions out and dance whilst I'm doing it. And I also have a few for just praising God, because I just have moments of just wanting to feel calm by just listening to praise and worship. So I have that too. So that would be your sound. And then the next thing is, like I said, touch feeling. So with touch feeling, for me, it's also, like I mentioned before, connected to temperature. So regulating my temperature, being able to get into a point of just feeling something cold, getting my temperature lower than it is feeling at that point in time. And then the last one is taste. I'm sure I didn't mention it before when I was mentioning the 5 senses. But anyway, all good and well. Taste. So make something that you genuinely enjoy. There's a food category called soul food. And sometimes people are associated with foods that their parents make or foods that other cultures have that just literally hit your heart, that hits your soul. Sometimes it's having that when we're not feeling great, because it just helps to evoke different emotions than we're feeling at that point in time. But we can't speak of emotional regulation and just ignore why those emotions happen in the first place, because it is likely that they're going to happen again, and the next time a little bit stronger than the first time. So it's important to actually acknowledge what contributed to me feeling this emotion. Be curious about the human being that you are, the things that you do, the behaviors that come out of you, and the emotions that also come out of you. And ask yourself, why does that keep on happening if it does keep happening? So that you can start to create strategies that are not just in the right now, but strategies that are able to help you in the long term, to be able to get to that point where you are consistently managing your emotions in a healthy way. So I hope this video just created some insight into just managing your emotions and regulating them in the context of relationships. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Tuning in again next week. So next week we're going to be speaking about narratives. We're just going through the theme that we've already started. Thank you so much and see you again next week. Hit the like button and also the subscribe button. It really helps and goes a long way. Thank you so much, guys. See you again next week. Bye for now.